So if money is one of these big sticking points in marriage, then let's talk about, why. Talk about some of the ways in which it becomes a big sticking point and a big place where conflict can arise. Well, the first reason would be that debt is crippling people who are married. Debt is crippling marriages. So there have been surveys done, and specifically a 2017 survey done by Ramsey Solutions, Dave Ramsey's company. They surveyed 1,000 married couples, and the average couple had about $30,000 in debt, and nearly 2/3 of those individuals, of those couples, they started off their marriage in the red. They started off their marriage where they had debt, and their debt was outweighing the assets they had. They had negative net worths. And obviously that can create some issues because, as we've talked about before, debt creates a cash flow crunch. And that's just what you need early in a marriage, is to have a cash flow crunch and worry about where all your money is going. And it's interesting that of the individuals that they surveyed, the ones that were debt-free, the couples that were debt-free, they said that the fighting about money and money problems and money issues, the survey said that that was not even in the top 5 of the list of things that they fought most about. Whereas with the individuals who did have debt, that was right up there. That was the most argued about topic. And so, man, you can just see this is so big. It's such a huge deal that debt is a part of your life, that debt is a part of your marriage, because it is only going to create more strife and conflict. And we all know that marriage comes with its fair amount of strife and conflict under good circumstances, much less circumstances where you are crunched for money and you have to, figure out what the deal is. If you can start in a place where you don't have debt, or at least you and your spouse are on the same page as far as paying your debt off, what you're going to do with it, how you're going to dig out of that hole, then that can really decrease the number of conflicts that you have and decrease the likelihood that your marriage ends up failing, because obviously the things that you fight most about in your marriage are the things that lead to divorce and separation the most. And this having debt while being married is something that is, plaguing the younger generation. It is plaguing individuals that are my age or a little older, or a little younger, who are getting married. And the reason that it is doing so is because debt is so readily available to us. It's everywhere. Student loans are easy to take out. Credit cards are easy to use. You can get personal loans a lot easier. You can go online and, have money sent to you in, a matter of days or even hours. And so it really is permeating the younger demographic. And it's interesting to note that of the married individuals who have been married for 5 years or less at the time of the Ramsey Solutions study, those who've been married for 5 years or less, 86% of them started their marriage with debt. Whereas those who were married 25 years or more, only 43% started their marriage with debt. So you can see that so many more individuals are starting their marriages with debt today, which may be a large contributing factor to the fact that the divorce rate is so high in the United States. Because if we're saying that, if you're in debt, that's going to be one of the top things that you're going to fight about with your spouse, and more people are starting off in debt now than ever before, then more people are going to start fighting about those things now than they ever have before. So that can just be such a huge issue and something that's going to weigh us down. And that's one of the big reasons why I preach get out of debt, why I preach don't have debt in your life, why I preach to, have money that gives you options, have the ability to give, save, and spend in differing proportions. And debt is only going to hold you back from being able to do so, and it's going to create more conflict in your marriage. And then obviously, if having debt is a problem, then you would think the more debt that you have, the bigger problem that it would be. And you would be spot on. If you look at the couples who say that their money and their debt is something that they fight about, the percentage of individuals who say that is true increases monotonically, so increases just right down the line as you go and increase the amount of debt that they have. So from like $0 to $10,000 in debt, only 23% of couples, they said that was a top issue in their household. Then, from $10,000 to $19,999, then 33% said it was a big issue. From $20,000 to $49,999, it was 37% said it was a big issue. And then 48% of the couples who had $50,000 or more in debt said it was a top issue in their household. And how many individuals do you know today, just based on student loans alone, have $50,000 or more dollars in debt? It is no surprise that young individuals are not going out and getting married. It is no surprise that they don't want to get into these relationships with others until they get their own life figured out as far as their debt situation, their money situation, because they are afraid, and for good reason in most cases. Because you're sitting here and you're saying, okay, if this is one of the biggest things that we fight about, and we know the more debt that we have, the more that we're going to fight about it, and so many young individuals are sitting with $50, $75, $100,000 in student loan debt, then that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem for those individuals going and getting married. And if it's not for every one of them, it is going to be for most of them. We see that in the data. You see that in the surveys. So it's why it's such an important thing to be on the same page. It's such an important thing to understand where you're at financially and either be out of debt or want to work on getting out of debt with your spouse, because it will free you, and it will free you from a lot of tough conversations, a lot of conflict, a lot of fights, and potentially even separation or divorce. And it's interesting. I've said earlier that money fights falls right behind infidelity in the top things that American couples fight about. And that is obviously no surprise. But one of the biggest things that goes on within money problems and financial issues is this idea of financial infidelity. That would be, if you're hiding a relationship from your spouse, then, that would be some type of infidelity, right? Well, financial infidelity would be hiding money or hiding purchases or hiding things like that from your spouse. And so it's really interesting that these individuals who, do fight about money and do fight about having debt, they don't want to fight about it. And in not wanting to fight about it, what they try to do is they try to hide things from their spouse. They commit this financial infidelity. So about 1 in 3 of those individuals who argue about money in their marriage hide purchases from their spouse. And this is so unhealthy. And this is such a horrible thing to be doing. In hiding purchases from your spouse, all you're doing is creating another reason that your spouse could be mad at you if they find out. It can be a huge issue, especially if you're spending lots of money. Spending $3, $4, $5 here and there, you're probably not trying to hide that. But you are likely trying to hide, the new bag that you went and bought, ladies, or, the new PS5 that you went and bought, guys, although that's going to be hard to hide when they see you playing on it all the time. Or any number of things that you could go and you could purchase and then hiding those purchases from your spouse. That's just not a healthy way to go about your money. And it just gives you another reason to fight about your money and another reason to create conflict. And we are trying to minimize conflict in the money area.